OG Nitty, what's going on, man? I know you. I'm sure you've been listening to the news and heard about what's going on. Donald Trump done did it again. You know what I mean? He don't let my man Larry Hoover out. You know what I mean? Blessing. You know what I mean? Peace and blessing to the brother. You know what I mean? First of all, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Hope he come home with good health and stuff and a good mind and stuff. You know what I mean? Second, you know what I mean? We got a couple homies that come on, Trump, keep going. You know what I mean? We got a couple other people that you important and release behind that G wall that have served a lot of time already and stuff. You know what I mean? How you feel about the situation though?
Man, I'm feeling great, man, and because if for those viewers that have been watching, in a couple of episodes back, they asked me, who was I voting for, who did I want to win, and I said Donald Trump, and you had some people like, oh, this and that, and they made comments, and they're entitled to their opinions, but it's like I can't go with somebody over what they say over what they would like me to believe my own lying eyes and ears. Here it is. You had numerous, Democratic presidents in there, and I'm not against Democrats. You know what I mean? I'm not against Republicans or anything. I'm just, expressing my opinion on it. And you had numerous presidents in there before Trump. No one lifted a finger to try to commute Larry Hoover's sentence when Chicago was at its worst, and when it comes to violent crime and the murder rate. Minister Louis Farrakhan said himself he asked for Larry Hoover to be released because everyone believed that Larry Hoover can bring, if not a complete cease, but a major decrease to the violence that was happening in Chicago. No other president did that, and they all had the power to do it, right? I'd like to give a special shout out to Kanye, for really going in there, going to bat, and it's good, and it show you what money do and things of that nature, because, how many people, in their lifetime get to sit with a sitting U.S. president and say, hey, by the way, President, could you let this guy out? Now, it's been all over 2000, and seeing is believing it, but man, I know that many of the, especially the growth and development side, have to be excited, about this news, because I know that a lot of them are waiting to see what's yet to come. Me, I often told people, even inside of my, own hood, I said, man, they said, well, man, he's a GD. I said, a mind is a mind, right? And sometimes minds can be evil, but also they can be equally beautiful. And I said, man, I believe that he has a beautiful mind, to try to say, well, hey, look, I have all this manpower, and and people are following my lead. Now let me gradually, go away from the streets, which was all I knew, and then turn it into, something. I mean, to my understanding, I mean, he has political consultants and everything, inside of the growth and development. So I have to tip my hat to someone with that sort of mindset. And speaking of coming home, I have to give a very special shout out, man, to a good friend of mine. I can't call him a YN because he definitely outthinks a lot of the younger dudes and some of their decisions nowadays. But he just recently gave his time back. Lil Zoe from out PG County, man, I'm so happy for you. And nobody deserved it more, than yourself. But back to the the Larry Hoover situation, I believe that this was a major step in the right direction in wanting to stop some of the violence in in the urban cities, urban predominant cities. I think this is a major step in the right direction by the president. Um, I can only hope that he continues. If he's looking for somebody to give him a list, I have one ready, right? Of people who I believe that who are presently incarcerated, and no doubt, we are due to the consequences of our actions. However, I believe that many of these people out here are, that's presently incarcerated. I believe that those minds are allowed to go in the right directions, such as Larry Hoover, right? That they can bring forth a change to what has been described as a pandemic in urban America. That is one of the reasons why we do these interviews that we do now. And our campaign is to try to save the youth, because we have to be more than somebody's paycheck. Whether that's juvenile halls, baby bookings, uh, FCIs, and state ran facilities, medium securities, maximum securities. We have to become more than just somebody's paycheck or generational wealth. This is important. And that is the reason why that it has always been feared of the Larry Hoovers, of getting out, the Garnett Smiths, the Tony Bays.
That's one of the things they was talking about too. They trying to bring parole back to federal prison and stuff, because one thing is, which is correct, that if you go in, say you just go to a federal institution at 21, just say 21, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. By the time you're 45 or 50, your mindset have changed. You don't have the same mindset you had when you was 21. You feel what I'm saying? So they should bring it back, you know what I mean? Me, myself, you know what I mean, did federal time and stuff, you mean? Won a lot of time, but with federal time, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just agree that, you know what I mean, that they should bring it back, you know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? Because, like I say, you mean, when you're in there from that time to that time, your mind changed. Your mind ain't the same and stuff, you know what I mean? So you change and stuff, you know what I mean? So you should consider that and think about it also, you know what I
mean? I'm living proof. Yes, certain things as a man, it might kind of rub me the wrong way. But I learned not to always deal with my problems with violence now. Right? And it's helped me a great deal. It's made me, or maybe should I say, made other people, available to me now. Because that's not, I was so used to doing everything by force, right? When sometimes only thing you had to do was ask and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me? And you might get 9 no's, but you only need 1 yes. I'm living proof of that. I was turned down for appeal so many times, in my incarceration. And, average person, they would have gave up. But I knew I only needed to be told yes 1 time. And I'm back out here. So this is why, like I said, when I said people who could actually help society, the Devon Johnsons, because, my grandfather once taught me when I was very small, very young. He explained to me about necessary evils. And my grandmother had used that statement to me one time, but I asked him, and he said, look, sometime in life, certain evils or certain people need to be present, and their mindset need to be present. He said, otherwise, we will have anarchy. And now see that the old man was right. But we'll pick it back up on this. And once again, let me not forget Gary Ward. He's another one. Been fighting for his freedom and would be effective out here in the streets, especially with, the crime and the violence being the way it is, in this day and time. But we'll pick back up on this. Until next time, peace.
Hey, so remember, hit that subscribe button, share the video, comment, and like the video. Hey, leave a comment. We do talk back. Civil Wolf TV. God bless.